What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Wow! Your man's David Big Toe Haye has gone all the way in on Anthony Joshua's new style of boxing, or his latest style of boxing. And in my opinion, in these David Haye comments, he's essentially using he's using some reverse psychology. Yeah? Anyway, let's get straight to the comments. Check this out. So, IFL TV said to David Haye, how much trouble do you think AJ will have with Alexander Usyk, aka Alexander Usyk? And David Haye said, not much, I don't think. But, if Anthony Joshua decides to have a tit-for-tat boxing match, just jabbing and trying to score points, then he'd have some trouble. But, he's not stupid enough to do that. Yeah, so like I said at the start, this for me was some reverse psychology. Surely, AJ, you're not going to be stupid enough to play tit-for-tat boxing like he did with Pulev against Usyk. Surely he's not going, you know what I mean? 100%. I spoke to David anyway, he told me, listen, you're right, YB. Yeah, I heard your video, 100% right. I was using reverse psychology, no doubt. That's what he did say as well, 100%. Confirmed. Do you know how it's confirmed? I just told you it's confirmed. Yeah? That's what it was. Anyway, listen. And then what gets me now, yeah, is because there's a few goofies in the comments who don't have a lick of a clue about boxing. Oh, listen, it's not nothing to do with disrespect, yeah? Because there's things I don't know about. Yeah? 100%. But I've told you, man, before. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Listen to every single YB's never boxed before. YB's never this. YB's never that. Fine. Sure, in fact, I'll tell you what to do. Never mind listening to all the boxers I've showed you evidence of, telling AJ how the fights need to go. Never mind all that. Find me a boxer telling AJ to do this piddly-paddly stuff. Show me it. Show me one boxer, one decent trainer who's come out and said, apart from Rob McCrappen and AJ's fruity team, take AJ's fruity team out of the equation, who's come out and said AJ's best chance against Usyk is to go in there like he did against Pulev, and piddle around for 10 rounds. And play tickle around. Like he did against Pulev. In there, dancing around, and Pulev, watch the fight back. Pulev was the one coming forward. Do you understand that? That is the definition of piddling around. When you're built like AJ's built, and you're in there with inferior men, if you're going backwards, it's piddling around. I'm sorry, it's the fact. You're in there with Pulev, it's old. People need to understand, AJ is in the absolute prime of his life. Which means when you're in there with a 40-year-old man who was never that aggressive in the best of his career, in Pulev's prime, Vlad, who is the most scary looking ass dude, Vlad smoked Pulev's boots for him. Smoked his boots. And that was Vlad, Mr. Super Scary. He smoked Pulev. AJ went in there, who was a much more aggressive and proficient finisher, took him 3 times as long to get when Vlad fought Pulev, yeah, Pulev was prime, 100%. When AJ fought Pulev was old, out of shape, not sharp, inactive, just hanging around. Pulev was. And AJ went in there like he was in there with Mike Tyson from 1986, giving him way too much respect. And like David Haye says here, AJ was having a apart from that little spurt in the second round or whenever it was, whatever round, AJ had 2 spurts in the whole fight. The last round and that round 2 or whatever. Apart from them 2 spurts, the rest of the fight was tit for tat. It was piddly. Yeah? It was just... You know what I've called it. And the crazy thing is, this is how we know, yeah, that David Haye and other boxing dons are 100% subscribed to the YB, because David Haye essentially just used exactly the same words I've used before. Yeah? I call it the point scoring. AJ goes in there and it's all this little nippy nappy stuff. Nippy nappy point scoring. Oh look, I got you. Oh look, I touched your body. It reminds me of when you're kids, yeah. If anyone's played rugby before, when you're kids, you play touch rugby. It's like when someone touches you, pulls your flag, you have to. All kids, yeah, have to tuck a flag into their shorts. And if someone tugs on your flag, you have to give the ball up. That's what AJ be playing right now. Oh look, oh I got you, Pulev. And they're all like, I don't know, it's super weird. There was no ferociousness. Compare it to the Joseph Parker fight. And even that, the crazy thing is, yeah, about the Parker fight, people was complaining. Back then, people was complaining that the Parker fight was too boring. I'd kill for that kind of AJ now, 100%. But that just goes to show how far we've come, how far AJ's devolved, unfortunately. But in all honesty, the Parker fight was probably AJ's best performance in that, if that makes sense. I've never said you should go in there and just be swinging from left and right, going crazy, no. But what I do expect is your jab is coming forward, your 1-2 is coming forward. And that's the bottom line. Everything you throw, you're going forward. What are we going back for? And that's the thing. Oh, YB, you're wrong. YB, you just want to see Spartacus. Listen, all of you goofies, stop throwing ad hom attacks about and actually explain to me why AJ should ever be going back against Pulev or Usyk. Just explain to me. Tell me what. Tell me what you see that makes sense, or tell me what you see that explain it to me. Why you disagree? Because from what I see, from all the heavyweight dudes in the heavyweight division today, AJ's jab should be going forward. He should be the one dominating the centre of the ring, and he should be going forward with his jab, backing him up, putting a 1-2 on the end, and then, when on the inside, opening up efficiently, putting combinations together. Not throwing 20 at once and gassing out, but putting 2-3 punch combinations together. It's a pretty. I hate to break it to you, it's really not rocket science. It's pretty standard boxing. Jab and 1-2, get him back to the ropes, get him cornered, and then let some combinations off. Reset, do it again. Look how Alvarez fights. And the thing is with Alvarez, yeah, what Alvarez doesn't have, that AJ does have, he doesn't have the relative length, and he doesn't have the 1-2 either, because of his size. When you watch Alvarez fight, he's getting out-jabbed by Kovalev because of the size differential. AJ has the best of both worlds. He has the ability to combination punch and hook and uppercut like Alvarez, but he also has the long 1-2, which is why I advise putting both together. Which is why I've always said AJ is the ultimate hybrid. He can 1-2 with the best of them in history, in my opinion, if trained properly. There ain't no one with a noticeably better 1-2 than AJ in heavyweight history, I don't believe. Not if trained correctly. With that said, really, there's not many, apart from maybe Tyson, there ain't no one hooking and uppercutting and combination punching better than AJ. Who? Oops, there ain't no one. Put them together and you've got a fighting machine. Unfortunately, we ain't even doing none of these things, because now, I've just told you, the jab should be going forward. We should be dominating the centre of the ring, backing opponents up, and then looking to open up on the inside when they're backed up against the ropes. We can't even get the jab going forward these days. These days it's a, ooh, touched you, ooh. That's what it's like now, 100%. They're playing touch butt. Did you man ever watch? Conor McGregor had a trainer. What was his name? Conor McGregor had a trainer called, I forgot his name now, but Conor McGregor, back in 2015, I think, he had this trainer, and I forgot his name, but he had this super fruity trainer. He was like a kind of yoga guy. He was this super fruity yoga guy, yeah? Anyway, end of the day, yeah, Conor McGregor was playing touch butt in the park, 100% with his new fruity yoga trainer. That's what AJ be doing right now in the ring. He be playing touch butt with his opponents. No doubt. This is what it is. He plays touch butt and touch rugby. That's what, I hate to break it to you. And no one, just watch the Pulev fight, yeah? Did you man see how Pulev jumped up and acted all goofy after the fight finished? Now, I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but the point is, you man watch how Dominic Brazil got finished. He weren't jumping nowhere. He was well done. Listen, AJ turned him into a UFO. He was alienified. Do you know why? Because he got bust down. He got broken down. He got broken in. He got turned out. That's why Brazil weren't jumping up. Because he was well done. He was cooked. He knew he was in the presence of the Alpha Omega, no doubt. The Africanulese. That's what he was in front of. Your man's Pulev at 40-year-old jumped up and acting all fruity. He did that because he felt like, well, I didn't even get worked properly. And I'm not being funny, look at Pulev's face. Pulev's face looked like he'd been in a ring with a man playing touch butt. I'm not being funny. Tyson Fury's face after sparring sessions with F.A. Jagba and Jared Anderson looked worse. That's a fact. AJ before the first Ruiz fight looked worse in sparring. Sorry, Pulev. AJ after his Ruiz camp sparring looked worse with the marks on his face than Pulev did. Pulev didn't have no marks. Pulev looked fresh. And he's a 40-year-old man who doesn't know how to fight on the inside. That says something, I'm sorry, it does. It's like Floyd Mayweather fights. Floyd's opponents look fresh as a daisy. But the difference is Floyd isn't a heavyweight, and he doesn't, and his hands are soft, and he's never been an aggressive fighter, or certainly not for the last part of his career. And even then, Floyd Mayweather doesn't. I guess heavyweights are different, but either way, Floyd's never had that pound for pound bang. When you compare it to Gervonta Tank Davis has the pound for pound bang. Your man's Floyd never really had that. AJ's got the pound for pound bang when he wants to use it, or if he's trained to use it properly, which is not being right now. And that's why people like David Haye coming out and having to kind of use reverse psychology to beg AJ to pull his finger out. And I can't even blame AJ because I just believe it's to do. For me, it's a systemic failing right now. It's the team, it's AJ, it's one big circle jerk of softness. 100% confirmed. Let me read these quotes one more time. If AJ decides to have a tit-for-tat boxing match, just jabbing and trying to score points, then he's going to have some trouble. But he's not stupid enough to do that. Like he was against Pulev. Like he was against Ruiz. To be fair, well, you know what, scrap the Ruiz one. Let's focus on the Pulev one. Because Pulev is more like, Usyk is a much more trickier version than Pulev. And I agree. And is much more prime in terms of age. If AJ goes in there with that same Pulev mentality, or worse, because in my opinion, we've actually watched AJ's mentality and approach devolve, in as much as the Ruiz fight, that was a certain level of goofiness, and the Pulev fight was even worse. AJ was even less offensive against Pulev, especially when you consider that his opponent was a lot worse. AJ was more active against Ruiz than he was Pulev. So if we're following that trajectory, this Usyk fight could be super, super bad. Which is what I was telling you, man, months ago, years ago now. This is what happens when you allow scariness to spread. When you allow certain mentalities to spread. And you don't nip them in the bud. You can't let fear linger. Like Team AJ did after the first Ruiz loss. They let it linger. They changed their whole identity. 10 years of boxing identity was changed because of one bad night. Shocking. It makes me laugh. AJ's allegedly working with all of these top boxing psychologists. What psychologist tells you to do that? Oh yeah, well, you had one loss, so just throw it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Usain Bolt had one loss. Now it's time to become a 400-meter runner, or you know what I mean? Become a marathon runner now. That's essentially the equivalent. Usain Bolt lost 100 meters, so now he needs to become an 800-meter runner. Or so and so lost a football match. Now he needs to change positions where he plays. He's not a defender anymore. No other sport does that. And even when you look at the great fighters, show me a great fighter who was fighting a certain way, lost, and then just completely changed and was never the same again. It's bad. It's super bad. No doubt. Anyway, David Haye goes on to say, AJ's just going to use his beautiful jab, use his height and his reach advantage, use his size and weight advantage, and his power punch advantage, his physical athletic advantage, his advantage of being able to receive punches from big heavyweights. He's just better all round and is going to be pretty devastating. And this is what I'm saying as well. All of them things that Haye points out I 100% agree with, and in fact it's not about whether I agree with them or not. It's about the evidence, and the evidence shows that all of these facts are true. AJ's able to receive punches from big heavyweights. I don't know what's been going on in Team AJ ever since the first Ruiz loss. It appears to me that they believe that he can't never get hit again. The way AJ fights now is as if he can never afford to be hit even once again. And if he does, he's going to go spark out. That's how he fights. He fights as if, if I get hit once, I'm going to be knocked out like Tyson Fury was against Steve Cunningham. Or like Tyson Fury was against Deontay Wilder. And to be honest, that's why I have to rate Tyson Fury to an extent, because he has no chin. That's a fact. He has no power. But yet, I'll give him credit, even though, tell lie, he's super scary now. It's no wonder he don't want to go back in the ring now. But either way, to be fair to Fury, he at least, he's been working with uber limited tools. But yet, yeah, he don't turn up half of the time, but at least he's turned up a little bit with no tools, if that makes sense. AJ's got all the tools, but don't want to use them. Now, I've never said you go in there with your chin in the air and just stick it out and get hit. But you've got to go in there with a level of confidence that, you know what, if worst comes to worst and I get hit, I know I can rely on my solid chin. Go back and watch the Ruiz performance when you lost. Your eyes never rolled in the back of your head. On your worst night, your eyes never rolled in the back of your head. On your worst night, you never lost consciousness. On your worst night, really, you was just tired, truth be known. You just looked gassed, which is having an elevated heart rate it can be a result of, if you get concussed, your heart rate can be naturally spiked anyway. And especially when you're concussed also, you're not sleeping properly, your body isn't resting properly, which makes you tired and whatever else. Because AJ was exhausted and he wasn't even doing nothing. But having said that, if you know there was extenuating circumstances, and even still, you didn't lose consciousness, that for me is a strength. I've always said that. Team AJ should have seen the Ruiz fight as a strength. The way I look at it is like, you know what? We know now, on our worst night, with everything going wrong, our chin, no one's ever going to get us out of there in one shot. On our worst night, we're going to have at least 4 chances to get back up. Do you understand? That's a positive. Tyson Fury, he don't have that. Yeah, he gets once and it's touch and go. Is it 10 seconds? Is it 11 seconds? Do you understand? That's what happened there. Fury gets hit once and people are looking at the count. Is he going to make it? Is he not? No one ever questioned that about AJ. AJ always made the count. If that makes sense. It's never a touch and go, oh my god, his eyes are in the back of his head and it's Undertaker. No one's ever talked about Undertaker with AJ. Why? Because his chin genetics are solid. But like I said, to be fair, it's all well and good me sitting here and talking about AJ's chin genetics, but it's another thing. I can't keep giving people the ratings for things and then them not believe it themselves. Does that make sense? What's the point of me coming on here and chilling and you don't even trust it yourself, innit? What's the point? I might as well just say you got no chin, because the way you fight is as if you got no chin, innit? So I'm not sure what we're doing here. What are we doing as fans that we believe more than the Team AJ believes? It's a bit of don't make no sense to me. We've seen you in there with Klitschko when you was overweight and half gassed. Got hit with a huge right hand, still on the floor smiling, got back up. So I'm struggling to understand. If you know you can come through the ringer against Vlad, against Ruiz, much better punchers, much better combination punchers than Pulev, much more prime than Pulev. But you're in there more scary than you ever was against Vlad, more scary than you was against Ruiz. Where's the maths in that? And now we've got Usuk's coming up, and Usuk's licking his chops. I keep hearing reports that Usox is rock hard for AJ, and he can't wait to get in there and test some of this anxiety out. And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't even blame him, because no word of a lie, if I was training someone to fight AJ, I'd say the way he's fighting, and everyone, this is the thing, the problem is, yeah, it's all well and good making a whole new strategy for AJ, as they've done, but unfortunately, humans, and the world, obviously the world in general, which is full of humans, people aren't blind, you know. AJ's career doesn't exist in a vacuum, in as much as, does Team AJ think they're the only ones who are observing this change? The whole world has seen him go from a certain way of fighting to the complete opposite. What do you think that does to your opponents? Do you think your opponents, think about Dillian White's talked about it, everyone's talked about it, whether directly or indirectly, like Haye's done here. What Haye's talking about here is an indirect analysis of what's been going on in AJ's career recently, or over recent years, since the Ruiz loss. Now, like I said, this thing hasn't happened in a vacuum. Now you've got AJ opponents who before wouldn't have crossed, before they just had to go in there and whatever. Now people are going in there and thinking, you know what? We've witnessed this dude in there, a 40-year-old man, and he's super scary. He's dancing around. He ain't dominating the centre of the ring. He ain't got no ring generalship. He dancing around. He stay dancing. He's super nervous to get hit. Everyone can see it. So this strategy in itself, it encourages people to be aggressive. It encourages people to take their chances. Whereas before, people didn't dream of taking a chance. Look at Joseph Parker. He didn't want none. Yeah? Do you understand? It's like Mike Tyson. Not 50% of people were broken before they even got in the ring. But the opposite is also true. When you flip the other way, now all of a sudden, you've got 50% of people coming to have a good go. So you've made your life twice as hard now. Before, you could beat people before you've even turned up. Now you've got people like Usox thinking, you know what? Look at how nervous he is. Let me see if I can push that button for him. And who knows what happens at that point. Because after you've trained a certain way, what happens when you get your button pushed and you find yourself in that same situation that you and your team have been fearing for the last 2 years? Oh, we're back here again. Oh, it's all falling apart. Oh. And the worst thing is, in my opinion, AJ still hasn't fixed the holes that was left after the first Ruiz loss, that have been there throughout his career in terms of defensively. So what happens now if Usyk gets on top of him and starts getting stuck in? I actually think it might be one of the better things for AJ's career. Maybe that finally he'll see that his team don't know what they're doing. Because for me, this ain't it. I think the best thing right now would be AJ learning some lessons again. Finally, the final lessons. But let's see. Listen, I'm open to, if AJ goes in there and I see a perfect performance or I see a great performance, I'll give him credit and I'll say, you know what, fair play, they've turned it around. But just bear in mind all the things boxing people are saying. It's not by chance. David Haye hasn't come on here and said, like for example, before the Ruiz loss, yeah, did you hear anyone talking about, well, if AJ decides to go tit-for-tat boxing match, just jabbing and trying to score points? Did you hear anyone saying that, genuinely? Before AJ lost to Ruiz, or in fact, before the last few fights, because even after the Ruiz loss, no one knew how he would react. So, before the last few fights here, did you hear anyone referencing AJ and saying, is he gonna... You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, when AJ was gonna fight, I don't know, Dominic Brazil or Takam, did you hear anyone before that fight saying, well, it depends if AJ's going to come for a tit-tat boxing match? That was never on the agenda. Never. And rightfully so. Why? Because there ain't no one who deserves nothing less. No one in this heavyweight division deserves or is good enough for AJ to think of anything else apart from straightforward. There ain't no one. And if you disagree, tell me who. Tell me who you think AJ needs to have caution about. Who is proven AJ should be cautious about? Who's got a track record? What, Dillian White, who's been knocked out cold by a 40-year-old man? Oops. Tyson Fury, who's been sparked out by Deontay Wilder, who had no KOs in the amateurs. Oops. All that power, but you couldn't KO no amateurs. Oops. Fury's been knocked out cold by a man who has no power in Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder has paid power. Yeah? He pays people to jump on the floor. That's what he does do. So who is there then? Oh what? Deontay Wilder, who got slapped about by a man himself with no power in Tyson Fury. Oops. The heavyweight division is so weak. It's absolutely not acceptable for AJ to be playing tit for tat boxing at any level in this heavyweight era.